This is the 2021 Audi Q7 Premium Plus with the V6 engine. It's one of Audi's best-selling 7-seater crossovers, but let's figure out if this is going to be your next crossover, and a really good used one at that. Originally released in 2015 and facelifted yet again in 2020, the 2021 Audi Q7 Premium Plus is a really attractive vehicle. And it has a full 7 seats. Not to mention, it shares platforms with very successful vehicles like the Volkswagen Touareg, which I'm actually looking at one right across the camera, the Lamborghini Urus even, and many other ones like the Porsche Cayenne. And this shares the same DNA as those cars because it's based on that MLB platform. So today we're looking at one with the 55 TFSI motor, which is that 335 horsepower V6 that also has 369 pound-feet of torque. But again, the exterior is a beautiful thing. I really like these little ridges on the front here. I like what they did when they updated it in 2020, giving them more all-road-like presence with these lines on the front grille here. We have halogen turn signals and LED headlights right there, which are super cool. Got that LED side marker light. You got these awesome 20-inch wheels, which really add to the appearance of the car. Got the LED mirror turn signal with, of course, the 360-degree camera. I love that feature on these cars. You also have this really, really nice chrome strip down the side. I like how it says Quattro, and it feels really high-end as well. We have these door handles, which are touch-sensitive keyless entry. You just put your hand on there, or you hit that hand on there to lock the car, which is really nice. Again, I like how the side skirt is all body colored. I really like how it's a departure from having body cladding on every SUV. Audi knows what this thing is going to be used for. It's not really going to be used so much for off-roading, but rather it's going to be used as a family car more realistically. But I really like how they have the aluminum trim on the windows here. It's not chrome, it's this nice kind of like satin aluminum, and I really like it. It also matches perfectly with these roof racks. The backside of this car is one of my favorite elements of the vehicle. For example, I love how the liftgate extends out around the taillights. I love how there's this bar connecting the two. And the sequential turn signals really tie in the appearance. And you're probably wondering, what are these little lights doing down here? Well, if I open the tailgate, you can see that they actually move the turn signals down here, and that's because you can't have your regular taillights fixed on a moving part of the vehicle. For example, if you want to haul something and you want to have your liftgate open, which a lot of people do, then you have to have these in place as your brake lights and turn signals, so that's why those are there. Further, Audi has decided to put the reverse light there as well to get around road regulations while also keeping that really cool fixed taillight kind of look on the back there. And there's even the Quattro badge because, of course, all Audi Q7 models come with that Quattro full-time all-wheel drive, which is fantastic. Now, let's go ahead and check out the Q7's interior. Is really something special. For example, in 2020, they facelifted this whole thing and gave it this really cool, like gloss black dashboard, kind of reminiscent of like the Audi A8. So I really like how the screen just kind of blends in. I think it's really nice, but one thing that will happen, and this is to be expected of course, is it's gonna have a ton of fingerprints. I really like all of the soft touch materials on the door here. These have aged really well. Just for a bit of a comparison point, this has 64,169 miles as of the testing, and it is pretty nice. One thing that I personally don't like as much is the fact that they put the climate controls into this little touchscreen panel down here. At least they didn't hide it inside of this really nice MMI display. This actually works really, really nicely. But having that touchscreen panel means it's going to be a little bit harder to use the climate controls while you're driving. For example, this actually gives you a lot of options. You can tap it exactly where on the seat you want it to go, which is pretty cool. And there's even like a bit of a taptic feedback, so it almost feels like you're pressing a button, but in my opinion, it's never going to truly get to the level of having physical climate controls. One thing I do like though is that you can adjust it from low to high very easily. You can just drag your finger and it does it. It's awesome. And then of course sync, there's little physical buttons right here. It's super easy to use. The one thing that is annoying is the fact that the heated steering wheel is actually buried in a menu. You have to hit the little 3 dots and then hit the steering wheel button. It's not the worst touchscreen climate control system I've ever seen. I think that for the visual points, I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. But it will be a little bit harder to use when you're driving, 65 mile an hour down the highway. This head unit I have reviewed before. This was in my A4 review. If you want to go check out the in-depth features of the MMI, be sure to check that video out. But this one, it's roughly the same. It does have navigation though, which the other car did not have. if I go to the view, I can have my full map view while also having the map right there. And I think that that's a really nice quality to have. And one thing I really like is that they made the drive select buttons, physical buttons. So let's see what kind of driving modes we have on this 21 Q7. We have an off-road mode, a comfort mode, an auto mode, a dynamic mode, and my favorite, which is the individual mode. Here you can change the steering to maybe make it more sporty, but then you can go ahead and make the drive, you know, the same as it usually was. And that's the setting I love to have it on. I think it's a really cool thing. I also really like this dial here, how you can go forward and back, kind of like an iDrive dial. And then it has like a really nice volume control as well. And then of course you have that on the steering wheel. Getting to the steering wheel, I want to look at the whole driver cockpit setup. The virtual cockpit is as it is on every Audi. It's awesome, and you can see all of your information. You can change the view to shrink the dials, and of course you can even customize what you want your digital cockpit to look like, and I think that that's really nice. You can go to virtual cockpit, and you can change it to classic, sport, or dynamic. I think that that's really nice. The steering wheel is the same as it was on that A4 I reviewed. It has that view button. It has even a shortcut button, which that car did not have. And you can actually assign that shortcut button to whatever you want, as you can see on the screen here. You can change it to turn the voice guidance on and off, day and night map, turn the steering wheel heating on and off, so you can actually bypass the steering wheel heating button on there. So that basically undoes what I said before. Over here you have your headlight controls. These are not the typical kind of controls that you would normally have. You can actually put your finger over it and it actually shows you all the different settings possible instead of just having it like a normal headlight dial. It's a little annoying to use, but it's not the worst thing that I've ever had. Lastly, down here we have a fully lockable glove box, which is awesome. It's pretty much the same as on the A4. And again, we have these really nice seats. I believe these are 10-way power adjustable seats because the lumbar goes up and down and back and forth. So you have a lot of seat adjustment. It's extremely easy to get comfortable in this thing and find exactly where you want the seat to go. It doesn't do the forward and aft headrest adjustment, but these seats are extremely comfortable, and I think they're going to be great on long drives. They're heated, but they're not ventilated. That you have to pay extra for, but I really do appreciate the interior of this Q7. You even have nice little features. You have a feature where you can turn on the 360-degree camera by hitting that button. A bonus feature of the Q7 is the fact that it has this 3D camera, and it even shows you how the wheels are turned. So if I turn the wheel, you can actually see it turn on the 360-degree camera. Now, how cool is that? It's pretty realistic as well. It actually feels like you're in the 3D environment. A nice feature for an Audi at this price point. And another really cool thing, when you start to move, the wheels move with the car as well. Now, how cool is that? And then of course you can activate all of your driver assistance features right there by hitting that button. And you can even tell it that, oh yeah, I want like basic driver assistance, or I can manually turn off everything right from that menu. That you couldn't do on the A4, and I think that that's a really nice shortcut button. I think every Audi should have that button. Looking up here, we have nice little sun visors. They go out here, and they do indeed extend. We have obviously Audi's little touch dome light thing up here. These are super nice. You have your panoramic sunroof adjustment right there, which is one touch. I love that. It's got the SOS button. It's got a button to let you know when the door is open. You can turn the lights on. And of course, we got the other sun visor over there. Lastly, we have an auto-dimming compass mirror, which I really like. The Q7's front seat features the perfect location for cup holders, and it even has these nice little movable things to keep your cup in place. There's also a 12-volt socket right here, although I don't think it being next to the drinks is the best idea. What I do like, though, is that there's a dedicated place to put the key fob right here. Very smart thinking, Audi. The Audi MMI is packed with features. It features your radio, it can do Bluetooth, and it can even do wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's a pretty neat system, and it works flawlessly. Next up is this center console. This center console is super nice as it glides back and forth, and you can see it has this really nice motion. Further, you can open that up, and it's got a little Audi phone box for you to put your cell phone. It is not the biggest center console I've ever seen, but it'll definitely get the job done, and it's extremely comfortable. That's about all of the features that the front seat has to offer. Let's go ahead and check out the back seat of the Audi Q7. Has a lot of creature comforts as well. First of all, you'll immediately notice that all of the seats can slide and recline to really make sure that you're comfortable. There is loads of legroom back here and loads of headroom, even with this panoramic sunroof. I really like that I can just look at the sky while I'm inside of my Q7. Over here we have these touch lights once again. and we even have some really nice firm grab handles. There's even some really intelligent little hangers that are recessed into the ceiling. I've never seen that on another car. Over here, we have some nice rear seat climate controls, and they do have a nice little temperature adjustment, which means there are 3 zones of climate control. One for the driver, one for the passenger, and one for this entire back seat area over here. And there's even blanks for the heated seats as well, which means that if you upgrade to the Prestige Q7, you can even get heated seats back here too. Over here, we have 2 USB-C ports, which is very forward-thinking considering this is already a couple years old. We even have a little 12-volt socket, although the cap is missing, but we'll have to make do. Back here, we have some like little nets here. The one thing that I said in the A4 review is that things can kind of get stuck in here and stuff, but overall they do the purpose well, and I think they look really nice. I really like how they have this like wood trim in the back. It really, it flows nicely with the gloss black dashboard. And yes, it is a fingerprint magnet, but I think that aesthetically it looks really nice. I also like how not only there are air vents here, but there are also air vents on the B pillar, which is really, really nice as well. Over here, you have like a little storage cubby over here. I'm assuming it's meant to be some kind of ashtray or something like that. Over here, we have one of our Bang & Olufsen speakers, and yes, they light up when you turn on the car. One of my favorite features back here, of course, is the fact that it has this really nice center armrest. You put this down, and of course it's got Audi's classic over-engineered armrest. It's got this little hinge thing right here, and you can press that, and the cup holders, they kind of eject out, which is really nice. The one thing about these cup holders in the back is that they unfortunately do not fit my cup that well. In order to use these cup holders, you will need extremely narrow cups. And this car has 65,000 miles on it. This thing still works terrific. So it's really a test to the reliability of these newer Audis. And what's actually really cool about these seats is that you can actually get these exact seats in a Bentley Bentayga. Now, how crazy is that? Because there is actually another row of seats behind here. And one of my favorite features is that each individual seat slides and reclines. That's something you're not going to see on any other crossover sold in the United States. Since the middle seat individually slides on its own, it's actually got its own individual bolsters, which means it is actually pretty comfortable, and I would not mind riding this in this seat on a longer drive. So that's why you should definitely consider the Audi Q7. But let's go ahead and take a look at the third row and see what amenities they have back there. Getting into the third row of your Audi Q7 is easy. Just pull this little lever to fold the seat down, and then push this like this, and tilt the seat up, and now you're ready, or almost ready, to get into the back of your third row, which, by the way, is also power adjustable on this model. Now, the third row of the Audi Q7 is not the largest thing in the world, but with the seats all the way back, it is doable. As a matter of fact, I'll slide over into this seat and show you guys that you can fit your feet around these giant seat rails. That's really the main thing that's going to get in the way of being back here, but really, this is only really meant for children, is it now? I'm actually going to buckle my seatbelt to see just how comfortable it is. You can see I have loads of headroom, but legroom, my feet are definitely a little bit higher off the ground than they would be in, for say, the newer Chevy Tahoe. This is a lot like the older Chevy Tahoe before the independent rear suspension came out, per se. But there is some nice amenities back here. You do have the same coat hangers. You have little dome lights, which are kind of like the second row in an A4s. And then, of course, you have these nice little cup holders and even a little place to put some other gear. But for the most of the time, you're going to be folding down these seats and using them for space in the back. And of course, when you're ready to fold up the seats, just press and hold these 2 buttons, and the seats will automatically unfold like so. Underneath the hood of the Audi Q7, we have a 3-liter turbo V6 making 335 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. It's made it to an 8-speed automatic transmission, but more importantly, it has a 48-volt mild hybrid system, which does erase your spare tire, but it creates for better performance, and it can even shut itself off when it's coasting downhill. I think that that is a pretty neat feature for a big family SUV like this. Further, that's gonna save you on some fuel. But let's go ahead and take this Audi Q7 for a drive and see how that V6 really performs. To start the Audi Q7, just put your foot on the brake, make sure the key is within the vehicle, and then just hit the start-stop button to go. And of course, we have an 8-speed automatic transmission. driving the 2021 Audi Q7 Premium Plus. The steering, you can actually make it feel pretty tight with the individual settings. It almost feels like the A4 steering in a way. It's kind of light, but it's very, very predictable. This thing drives like a sports car. It really does. This thing has the quickness of a sports car, and it really soaks up the bumps nicely. Like, that was impressive. And of course, we're doing the speed limit here. We're just cruising down the road. My gauge cluster actually shows me where, like, it shows me if I'm in the lane or not, and I can actually use the navigation on the virtual cockpit, and I can even zoom in and out to see exactly where I am, which is great because I don't do this drive that much, right? And it still keeps my gauges right where I need to see them, which is super cool. And it even tells you what your elevation is, tells you how far you're zoomed in. These seats are extremely comfortable. They have great bolster support and great padding, but they're firm enough that they are going to be comfortable on a longer drive. Again, the armrest that has that extendable setting is extremely, extremely nice, and I think that is fantastic. You can put your arm on the armrest here, and you can kind of just cruise in this thing. Considering that this thing has, 60,000 miles on it, it drives like a new car. It really does. Like, these V6s are becoming more and more reliable if you just keep them maintained properly. And then, for example, like if I'm drifting out of the lane a little bit, the car will automatically steer you to keep you in lane, which is super duper smart, and I really like that. But again, if I try to steer it out of lane, the car automatically steers me to keep me in lane. I'm not sure if you saw that. And this is our turn, really testing the braking of this vehicle. Let's go ahead and accelerate. We're gonna go to 75 here. We're gonna fly down the road here to get to the speed limit. Yeah, this thing will definitely do the trick. It will. We're going the speed limit now. Speed limit's 75 out here, and yeah, I really like how the car will steer you to keep you in lane. I think that that's really cool when it works, especially considering we're in a place where the freeways might not necessarily have the best road markings, for example. You can see we went over a really rough bump there. This car soaked it up really well. And also, one other thing I want to point out, since we're getting off the highway here, the turn signals, which we're going to activate now, feel absolutely fantastic. They feel well dampened, as they do in every other Audi. And of course, this off-ramp does have a bit of a bend, so we'll get to even try out the handling here as well. This thing drives like the A4. It drives like a mid-size sedan. You can tell that it's got those small car-like road manners, and it handles like it's on rails, basically. I think that the handling is relatively good, and you can see it even tried to steer me in lane there, even though there wasn't a line at all. And that's because some of the lines are not really well painted in this area. Oh, here it is. So you can actually enable and disable it with this little stalk on the turn signal. It's just one little tiny button. This thing is quick. It's extremely quick for an SUV this large. It has about a 5.5 second 0 to 60, which I also think is really, really nice. The brakes feel fantastic, especially at a car with this many miles on it. It drives like it does brand new. And again, it has that auto braking. So if I'm in so for example, I'm in like kind of a stop and go traffic situation right now, what I can do is I can actually set it so the adaptive cruise control can start and brake the car. Maybe not so much in this situation, but if you're in a traffic jam, that would be a very helpful feature. Again, the safety features on this car are second to none, and they work really nicely in this vehicle. I gotta say, well done, Audi. This is very, very impressive. So, the 2021 Audi Q7 is a fantastic used luxury crossover for the money. This one has approximately 64,000 miles on it. It has some great safety tech and some great luxury features that make this thing seem like it is brand new. So should you save the extra money and buy the 2021 Q7 over a brand new one? The choice is up to you, but I highly recommend it. This thing drives great, it looks fantastic, and I even recommend it as a new vehicle as well. So with that in mind, this has been another Trisportation video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody drives safe and have a nice day. I'll see you in the next video.